I'm Joseph,
And I'm Nick.
and this is Fish Jelly.
Yep, sure is.
How are you?
I'm good. Overwhelmed, but good. How about you?
Okay. Sipping on my Diet Sunkissed.
Uh-huh. You're a favorite in this household.
Yeah, my two favorite, well, Diet Sunkissed, which is now called like Sunkissed Zero, and then A&W Root Beer Diet, which also now says zero sugar. It doesn't say diet.
Well, because diet implies body shaming.
Of
I don't
course,
know. I don't know if that's true.
Of course, Diet Dr. Pepper. It's really hard to find diet because they make Dr. Pepper like cherry vanilla or just vanilla or cherry. It's really hard to find that,
Yeah.
right? Because you usually buy our soda and it's not.
I mean, I don't search, I find.
Oh God. Well, we're recording this a day late because I was on a boat for the past week and I returned late Sunday night. Mm-hmm. But before we get started, the biggest news from last week is you got to watch a new Sigourney Weaver movie.
Oh, yes.
So do you want to talk about that?
All by myself, which was sad for me. Which, you're not supposed to be able to watch things the second time. This is through Sundance, which became virtual 2 weeks ahead of its supposedly hybrid presentation this year. So I very much well in advance knew that Sigourney Weaver's Call Jane would be premiering at Sundance in the premiere section, which probably, it's also notable while you were gone, the Berlin Film Festival announced their lineup, which I will be attending physically, and Call Jane is actually part of the Berlin competition as well.
What is this movie about?
It's called Call Jane. It's about an underground group of women in late 60s, early 70s Chicago known as the Janes or the Jane Collective. And basically it was just a covert operation of women procuring abortions for women that needed them because they were legal. It's technically the theatrical debut of Phyllis Nage, who is an Oscar-nominated screenwriter for writing Carol, the Todd Haynes movie starring Cate Blanchett. And Sigourney Weaver stars as this kind of Gloria Steinem. She's really a combination of characters I've read as Virginia, this woman who started the Janes, but the story is told through the eyes of Elizabeth Banks, playing Joy, who's a woman that has cardiomyopathy induced by her pregnancy. She's got a teenage daughter. She's married to Chris Messina. So the doctor's like, basically, you need to not be pregnant. You have a 50-50 chance of surviving this pregnancy. So let's apply to the medical board to see if they'll allow a therapeutic termination. And of course, the medical board is all these chain-smoking men, and they're like, oh, absolutely not. She could survive, and it's most important that the baby be saved, not caring about the woman. And so she goes on this journey to procure an abortion for herself because, she wants to live, and runs into the Janes, and then kind of becomes... at least in this story, she starts learning how to perform determinations herself. Because what this is outlining is these women are dependent upon this doctor who agrees to do the illegal abortions, and he charges $600 a pop. So which means most women, only kind of suburban white women, have the ability to pay for that. So they try to get into a bit of the intersectionality of Wunmi Musaku is really the only black cast member who's giving voice to what are we going to do for these women of color that can't afford these prices. And anyway, Sigourney is quite entertaining. I think perfectly cast. I thought she looked amazing, and she has this interesting striptease scene. Strangely in there, there's this weird, it's not weird, it's very entertaining because, I'm very, very familiar with Weaver on screen, and she has this ability to be kind of charming and girlish, and she kind of does this coquettish type thing. It's very interesting that she can do that because, like, her contemporaries like Meryl Streep and Jessica Lange definitely cannot.
Sure. But she has sort of a mischievous face.
She does.
Yeah.
She can tap into that very easily, but I don't know. I could see them trying to mount an awards campaign for her for supporting actress. I mean, obviously, I don't care about the Oscars, but like Glenn Close, I think Sigourney Weaver is deserving of that kind of acknowledgement. But really, I'd like to see The Good House.
Oh, sure.
Which you saw, which I think still needs a distributor, but I could see a Best Actress campaign for her in that. Wow. Notably also at the same film festival. So really even the director herself of Call Jane was like, I wasn't really familiar with this history of these women. Because the film goes from 1968 to 73 when Roe versus Wade is passed. And then, of course, abortion is illegal and the need for this underground network is no longer needed. Of course, what's interesting about Call Jane is we're looking at the past, but this is it's almost like the dystopic future we're looking at based on the kind of ongoing attacks against Roe versus Wade today.
Sure.
But there is a documentary called The Janes, which I plan on watching at the same Sundance Film Festival. I think that comes out today.
All done?
On that, yeah.
Okay. All right. RuPaul's Drag Race, season 14, episodes 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. We watched them separately.
Yeah.
Like from each other.
Which is hard because I like to hoot and holler at the screen. And
you do like to talk during things that you don't take seriously, that's for sure.
No, that doesn't mean I don't take it seriously.
Boy, you talk through every movie.
But there's a difference. There's a difference between being derisive and being interactive.
That's true. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so episode 2, we get to meet the next 7 queens, who are Angeria Paris Van Michaels, Daya Betty. Angeria Paris Michaels is from Atlanta.
You very much can tell. Yes.
And has like very like pageant queen, has the cutest like southern
drawl.
Daya Betty is Crystal Method's like they're in the same family.
I like how she's like, we don't call her drag mother because that ages her.
That ages her.
Girl. Okay.
Deja Sky, who's from like Fresno. Jasmine Kennedy, who's a New York queen. Georges, who's a young Latino who is from Texas. Lady Camden, who is from Camden, UK, but now lives in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And then Maddie Morphosis, who's from the Midwest.
Arkansas.
And is he from Arkansas? That's considered the Midwest. No?
That's the South.
Is that correct?
I don't know. It's pretty Southern fried. I don't know. Those people there talk with an accent that that is different than mine.
Arkansas is considered the Midwest, I think.
Okay. Well, actually, you know what? I always thought it was strange growing up that they called Minnesota Midwest because
it's so north.
It's very north, but whatever.
Well, I don't know. Is it?
I think it's just...
Okay, now I'm looking... Well, according to the Census Bureau, so I guess that's valid, it is considered the South. West, South, Central, Division 7.
Okay.
Which is Region 3 South.
It'll always be South in my mind.
Maddie Morphosis is a heterosexual cis male. So this is the first time we've seen a straight dude doing drag on U.S. Drag Race. We had a guy on season 1 of UK Drag Race who said he had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't recall if he said he was straight.
I don't know.
But yeah, Maddie Morphosis is a dude.
He is certainly a dude, yep.
Okay, so what did you think of these people?
Okay, maybe we should talk about Maddie Morphosis first.
Okay, what do you think about Maddie Morphosis?
Because there's such a controversy over this appropriation, which I don't agree with that argument. I don't think it helps that he's just dull. I think what is interesting is to watch somebody perform drag. I think RuPaul criticizes one of his runways, but there's nothing there. Like there's no energy. There's no. I think what you're seeing is maybe what we really like is the queerness of it, and not that he's not talented. I love his he did a little Marie Antoinette runway that was really creative, and I thought
that was not episode 2 though, was it?
That was episode 2, yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Really impressive, but at the same time, like, you're just really flat. I don't know.
Certainly, I think anyone should be allowed to do drag.
I agree, yeah.
Because drag is a form of entertainment. But I think it's rooted in queer culture, has a subversive nature to it. I think what would be required of a non-queer person doing drag is an understanding of the history of drag and its place within the community. And I think Metamorphosis has that down.
I think so too.
He seems very aware of,
doing camp. Yeah.
he understands camp, but he also understands like gender and sexuality and how he felt very limited growing up in the South. And then when he realized moving to a bigger city that he could express himself in this way, I think the story behind it's very powerful and sweet. Mm-hmm. And he seems like a very sweet guy. And he seems very comfortable with who he is.
Yes.
So it's all great to watch. But I agree that what you said, maybe what many of us love about us, well, I don't know what non-queer people love about drag, like all these little 13-year-old girls who are like the core fandom of Drag Race. I'm assuming they just like the faggotry of it all, right? Like, which
is that what we're missing? The faggotry?
Well, but that's a different kind of faggotry because I think they just love the yes queen and the blah 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 and the shiny and the glitter and oh she looks so pretty or some of them are misfits and then a lot of these girls feel that way. But I think for maybe like queer people, what they love about drag is the queer, like the essence of it. And I agree that Metamorphosis is missing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not like I demand flamboyancy, but it's, the affect is just...
He seems like a dude.
Yeah.
And,
which is fine. Again, dudes are fine. Dudes are fine.
Is my perception clouded because I know I'm told he's straight, so that's... But I don't know. Like, the way he walks, the way he sits in the workroom, like, when he gets out of drag, he just seems like a dude. And, in one respect, it's kind of like a novelty and it's cute. But then it's also like, oh, this is like straight up performance. Like, this is performance art. Like, you're completely detached from it.
Yes.
And then... I'm used to my drag queens like really sort of like it's an extension of who they are.
Well, it's also what Drag Race has conditioned us to expect and how this show is produced and how a lot of these queens they kind of have a symbiotic relationship with their drag personas. Then this persona is what saved them, right? And And there's a lot of interesting kind of identity politics going into that, which I don't get that with him so much, with Metamorphosis.
His artistry, like on TikTok, is impressive. I think he's smart and funny.
Yeah.
But his aesthetic is...
You know what also doesn't help that I think just on a very personal level, he reminds me of this young woman I had as an RA in college, my one semester,
triggered.
and I did not get along with her.
I just don't think his looks are that great. I mean, he did have the Marie Antoinette, like he's beheaded.
I thought that was very
And then
cool.
I watched a video. He did a YouTube or a TikTok video explaining how he did it. And it's very cool. But I think, you know what? To me, he as a drag queen is how I feel about myself as a hairstylist. I don't think that I'm a creative. I'm not an artist. I think I'm a technician. I know
he's a drag technician.
I understand the theory of like the chemistry behind hair and the science behind all these chemical services. Like that's my strongest background is science. So I'm very well versed in that. But the actual artistry of it, like doing it, I don't enjoy. I don't think I have the kind of flair people would want me to have. Like I think most people think I'm pretty dry when I do hair. Like I'm not giving what they want me to give. And I feel like Metamorphosis is a drag technician.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Okay, Lady Camden. I think Lady Camden's cute, but when he said he was 31...
Oh, see, I noticed they don't...
No, ma'am.
They don't...
they stopped putting ages, but wow. Okay. But I think he's a cute little guy, like his personality.
Yes.
I will say, as a cohort, all 14 queens... I'm very impressed by the quality of the queens. Mm-hmm. They seem to be getting along very well.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think he has a great personality. Georges just reminds me of like another pretty...
Super cute,
pretty drag queen who can dance their ass off. Mm-hmm. And I will say he's part of that like sort of select group of Rue girls who are super pretty. Mm-hmm. And he seems to have like, on the scale of like personality, like he's on the sweeter side.
Yeah, like not like Valentina.
Valentina's self-absorbed, but then you have someone like Komora Lee.
Oh God.
Well, what was her name? Komora Lee
Black,
who was just like a mean girl.
Not smart
and stupid.
You have to be smart to be mean. Let's get this straight.
So I appreciate that Georgia seems like, is a little salty, but I think more sweet. And then is super talented. Komora was just pretty, but couldn't really do anything else but look pretty. This bitch can dance. Mm-hmm. And, whatever. Jasmine Kennedy, I think Jasmine Kennedy obviously is a very talented dancer.
Very impressive set of references. They're bringing out that documentary, The Queen, and Beyond the Valley of the Dolls with him, and that's interesting to me.
Deja Skye, who is like a cheerleading coach in real life, I was underwhelmed by him.
I was underwhelmed by his talent performance, but I think he's got a great personality, and he reminds me of, is it Peaches Christ maybe? He reminds me of some kind of an old school drag queen.
Diabetti, I think, seems funny and smart and creative.
But
seems sort of like if I didn't know that was Crystal Method's family, I probably would have picked up on it because they have a very similar aesthetic.
I liked him out of drag more.
Yeah.
His personality, like in the, whatever you call those. Confessionals, like he's much more vibrant seeming.
So episode 1, my favorite was Cornbread.
Definitely, yeah.
But for this new batch of girls, or second batch, Angeria is my favorite.
Yeah.
He is so cute. Mm-hmm. And that...
Didn't know who Sharon Stone was, but okay.
No, okay, I have to mention that because they're like in the workroom and...
in the third one.
Carrie... that's in episode 3.
Yeah, they've combined everyone.
Yeah. That's right. And Carrie Colby's talking about... She mentioned Stone. Someone says the word Stone, and then Carrie Colby says Sharon. Mm-hmm. And then Angeria's confused. And then Carrie says, Sharon Stone. You don't know who that is? She's like, no. Well, she's like a famous white woman.
She goes, some famous white lady.
Some famous white lady. And then Angeria goes, oh.
Is she your friend?
Is she your friend? I thought that was so cute. Is she your friend? Yeah, so much personality. Mm-hmm. Her drag is like on point.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay, so they had, episode 2, they also had the charismas.
The CNTs.
The CNTs.
Charismas.
All that's missing is you. I don't know how I feel about this. To watch people we don't know who aren't used to performing on television do a talent show, it's a little boring because they all basically do like a lip sync.
Yes.
The only one who didn't was Matty Morphosis. He played the bass guitar, which was cool, but very like, again, it sounded like a dude playing the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And then he was standing there in like a pantsuit. Mm-hmm.
And then he played a part with his tongue, but then it's like...
But didn't show us.
Yeah.
But of all of them in episode 2, Angeria lip synced to an original song, which was super catchy.
Very catchy.
So she ended up winning the episode.
Oh, another highlight of the episode was Alicia Keys.
So the guest judge for episode 2 was Alicia Keys. And, I thought that was pretty cool. Because she's not known for sort of having like queer visibility.
Yeah.
And, when her first album, she was, the joke about her was that she was a lesbian because she was very butch.
Yeah.
And even, what's her name? Alexis Mateo did her in Snatch Game as a lesbian.
That's right.
Who was hitting on Amber Rose. So I thought it was pretty cool for her to show up on this show. Knowing that there's this sort of like lesbianism attached to her. And just be... And the other thing too is Alicia Keys is a prolific artist.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the Grammys, the millions of records sold, her discography is so impressive. She's such a talented musician, singer, vocalist, producer, writer. So to have her on the show is pretty major.
It's pretty major. It's also, because she's famous for not wearing makeup.
Well, she has started a skincare line. Actually.
Yeah, like she won't wear makeup. But I mean, she's just beautiful to look at. I love listening to her talk. But it was weird watching, they'd pan to her and Rue. And Rupaul in drag is stunning. But then the disparity between, somebody that's made up to be beautiful and somebody who just, like, is stunning is...
Who just is.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. But that was really cool. Okay, so then episode 3, the girls are joined. And then, episode 2, Diabetes was eliminated.
Yeah, which is fair.
So,
Oh God, her talent to Pink's get
the party started where it was like magic. Like she was like a magician, but she didn't do any magic.
But then I'm surprised Rue didn't clock her because she's like, "Oh, I'm lip syncing to Lips to get this party started." It's like that's not an original song by Pink.
Oh, sure.
Surely.
No, Shirley Bassey covered it.
Yeah. Oh wait, Shirley Bassey's not original either.
No.
That makes sense to me. Actually.
No.
But
Okay, so episode 3, Shirley Bassey covered that song after Pink did it. So episode 3, the girls are joined, and RuPaul says, "Oh, I'm bringing back the 2 eliminated queens,"
which doesn't surprise.
So now we have all 14 back, and she says, "We're gonna like the big twist is everyone's going to get a chocolate bar, a la Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory."
I already forgot about that.
And everyone will keep this bar. And if they're ever in the bottom and they have to lip sync and they don't win the lip sync, before they get sent home, they can open their chocolate bar. And if it's gold, they can stay. So that's the big twist. Episode 3, the challenge.
It almost felt like we gotta find a way. Nobody's buying these RuPaul chocolate bars. We gotta.
Those bars aren't even chocolate; they're plastic. I was watching.
Wait, those aren't even. He doesn't.
There are real chocolate bars. We went to the pop-up store.
That's what I remember.
Several years ago. You can buy the chocolate bars, but the bars that the girls have are made out of plastic.
I would hope so. They put them in their titties.
Because they put them in their titty meat. Yeah, all that heat would melt them. But episode 3, they had like 2 different balls. There were a lot balls, meaning like each like the queens had to come up with 3 different looks. There were like 42 outfits. That was a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Did you notice how you really got nothing in the workroom from Alyssa Hunter? They included no footage of her.
Yeah.
Like notably absent.
Which means she'll probably make it past the next episode. Because they seem to try to give the queens like
and also means she's boring.
I think she's boring. She is stunning, but I don't care for her. She's probably my least favorite.
She's just dull. Yeah.
Willow Pill wins the challenge. Mm-hmm. I thought Angeria should have won.
But Willow's took more
risks.
Yeah, I think so because Angeria, a lot of those were very pageanty too.
Yeah, but like one of the looks had to be a wedding gown, and I thought Willow's wasn't a gown, and then Willow's second look was like a Versace, like 90s sort of. The other thing I want to say about Willow is out of drag, she looks, she has like a chronic illness and she looks sick.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like her health is not well. But in drag,
oh, beautiful.
I don't know what she's doing because her face is super puffy out of drag. But in drag, she looks like, I know who she reminds me of. That lady who played Bridget Jones.
Renee Zellweger?
She looks like Renee Zellweger after she had all the surgery and lost all the weight. Mm-hmm. That's what she looks like. But in drag, she looks like a model. Mm-hmm. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really impressive. And her body's like, her body, out of drag, she looks sickly, but in drag, she looks like a model.
Like a fit lady.
Yeah. She's very smart. She's quick. Mm-hmm. So I do like her. Same. She wins. And then in the bottom are June Jambalaya and Maddie Morphosis.
Oh,
Maddie Morphosis got clocked for just like not having any oomph, like RuPaul said. It was also this episode where RuPaul seemed like she was on one. And she kept saying it was because of the caffeine enema.
That was awkward.
Or the coffee enema. It was kind of awkward. But Maddie Morphosis got put in the bottom for having no oomph. And then June Jambalaya, her drag is just raggedy.
She's just raggedy, yeah.
She's just not ready. But I watched the episode of What You Packin'. Mm-hmm. And she'd only been doing drag for a couple of years. And she can't sew. And she wasn't super confident. And it's like, well, clearly, like... And then she says she works as a stylist. But, I mean, none of her looks were very well put together. So June Jambalaya was sent home. But we can move on from that. So right now you're covering Sundance.
I am. Oh my God.
What do you want to say about that?
It's very hard to do these virtual festivals at home because you really are tethered to having to go on with the business of life and cover a film festival of serious world premieres. And it, to me, that takes more of a toll on me than traveling somewhere and being able to immerse myself in that world. Like I'm already behind on writing. So it's overwhelming. But yeah, there's a lot of good things. I'm averaging about 4 a day. Yeah, I don't know.
Is there anything in the lineup that you're really excited about?
Yeah, which I'm hoping you'll watch with me tonight. It's called Alice, starring Keke Palmer.
Oh, about the slave. She
escapes.
wakes up.
She escapes from a plantation, and it's like, oh, I'm in the 70s.
Yes, I am excited about that.
I feel like I can't even think. There are several other things, but after the Sigourney premiere, I was like, anything else, the world could end.
Oh. All right, so movies you watched for fun while I was gone. There are a lot of them.
Well, when you're not here, I'm able to get through a lot.
Oh, like I'm a distraction? No. Don't put that on me. You're the distraction to me.
Okay.
Try to make me seem like I prevent you from doing shit.
You don't. You just have to cook and clean
well, you could do a better job, so maybe we can.
Of which part? Don't. Joseph's very particular about the cleanliness of things.
Oh.
But
that's not bad.
No, I'm not saying it's bad, but don't you say my cooking's bad.
If I were your nurse...
Don't you be out here in public saying that I can't cook, okay?
You do cook. I'm not saying you can't cook. All right. So movies you watch for fun. Nick is mad.
Okay, fine. I won't... Watch me not cook. See how you fare.
You know what? If you didn't cook, I would eat...
Chipotle every day.
I would eat Chipotle every day for lunch and dinner. And then for breakfast, I would eat McDonald's.
I'd have a sensible McDonald's.
Yeah, I would have a large coffee with 3 cream, 3 sugar, and a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. And that would be my diet. Mm-hmm.
And then you'd slowly turn into a salt lick.
And then I would turn to a piece of beef jerky. A reconstituted... I would look like if you took a piece of beef jerky and put it in a bowl of water for 3 months.
So Flava Flav.
Flava Flav. No. No, you're thinking Trick Daddy. Trick Daddy looks like a piece of reconstituted
potato. Oh my God.
Although I shouldn't say that. I think he has like liver failure. That's why he looks so crazy. All right. So movies you watch for fun. Something Wild.
Yes, the '86 film, not the old Carol Baker one. I've never seen a Jonathan Demme film, who starring Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith, which has been long part of the Criterion Collection, and I'm a Jonathan Demme fan relatively. Silence of the Lambs, blah blah blah. But I was really underwhelmed with this. I just don't find Melanie Griffith. She's kind of supposedly this cutesy wild girl who sorta abducts Jeff Daniels, and then they're embroiled with her ex, who's out of prison, played by Ray Liotta. I thought it was a bizarre film that didn't quite work, but there you are.
Next, Leptirica.
Or She Butterfly, which is basically a vampire film from Yugoslavia in 1973. That was made for television. I watched it as part of that continuing all the Saints BRs, or all the Haunts BRs box set from Severin. But interesting, also a little dull.
Next, The Voyeurs.
I wish that we had... This came out last year, and we were busy that week and didn't cover it. And I know that somebody had asked if we would, but it stars Sydney Sweet and Justice Smith as this couple that moves into this building, and then they start seeing... they start becoming obsessed with the couple across the courtyard, I guess, much like Rear Window, where they become invested in this couple that has having a lot of sex. This like beautiful man and woman. They even finagle a way to get them like basically audio recording so they can watch them and hear what's going on. And then it becomes clear that the man is cheating on the woman. And then Sydney Sweet befriends that woman and finds a way to tell her, and this woman kills herself. But then there are like 5 other twists that happen in this movie. 3 of them, which are at least were so nonsensical, I thought they were stupid. But then, kind of as the film goes on and more twists are revealed, that kind of irons out some of it, but not really. I don't know. I was very frustrated and irritated with it because it does takes risks that are interesting. It's just not. It's a decent B movie, but I think it could have been an A-list film if it were better written. And also, Justice Smith is doing this like deep voice effect, which drove me crazy.
All right. Prince of the City.
Oh God, I popped this in one night while you were gone, thinking, oh, here's another Sidney Lumet film I can catch up on. And then I did not realize this motherfucker's like 3 hours long. Basically about police corruption. It's about Treat Williams, who this is after Hair, I believe, but kind of still his big star-making performance. He got nominated for like a Golden Stinker Award and a Golden Globe. And I think that those nominations reflect kind of the varying degrees of success of this performance. But interesting. Sidney Lumet, of course, is one of the greatest directors of all time in my mind, but about a cop that decides to turn himself over and then of course has to eventually narc on all his friends, but very much a procedural in that way too.
Something called Rosewood.
Well, MLK Day came around and I was alone and
Oh wait, I know that movie.
yeah, John Singleton.
Yes.
So it was a John Singleton film I've never watched, and boy did I just feel like it's hard to get through, for sure, as it should be. In retrospect, I find it interesting that Jon Voight has top billing, and we considered him to be appropriate casting for the friendly white man.
This movie is based on the historic events of the 1923 Rosewood Massacre in Florida, when a white mob killed black people and destroyed their town.
Yeah, they basically burned down the town, and Jon Voight basically is doing an Oscar Schindler and hides the surviving black people and gets them on a train out of town, even though he's money hungry, land hungry, part of the problem. But yes, Ving Rhames is playing again a conglomeration of people that maybe kind of existed. And this is all generated because a white woman, this stupid white bitch, is cheating on her husband with Robert Patrick playing somebody named the Lover, and he beats her down one day after some funching, and then she has a bruise on her face, and she can't explain it to her husband, so she just decides to say a black man raped her. Singleton takes pains to show that she chose, the most vulnerable person, but she didn't quite realize that these people were like rabid dogs and would hunt everyone down and just kill everyone. But interestingly, Esther Wohl plays her maid, can see that it was a white man that did this. Anyway, Don Cheadle's in it. Great cast. It was hard to sit through though.
Next, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs.
Do you know that line?
No.
That is one of the immortal lines of Sidney Poitier in The Heat of the Night. And so they made 2 sequels to that movie starring Sidney, the first of which is They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, with an exclamation point, directed by Gordon Douglas, which I also thought was real dull, especially as compared to In the Heat of the Night. And there's a third film called The Organization, starring Mr. Poitier as Tibbs. It's interesting if you like him or haven't seen those films. Definitely pales in comparison, though.
Something Called Apocalypto.
Something Called Apocalypse. You don't know that movie?
I don't think so.
Mel Gibson?
Oh, I think I am aware.
There's
like a helicopter in it, right?
Well, this is about the fall of the Mayan Empire, so no
helicopters. Oh, then it's not what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah, I had never seen it. I think the first film at that time that he had directed since Braveheart, so there's an 11-year difference, and it's pretty brutal, like surprisingly brutal. Basically, this peaceful village of Mayans are suddenly plundered and raped and pillaged, and they are taken for sacrifices to the bigger city. It's, oh my God. I recommend it. Also, I feel like it's interesting that what's his name decided to this was a passion project for him. But I will say Rudy Youngblood, who plays the lead Jaguar Paw, a very beautiful looking person, and very watchable.
We need to speed this up. I Think I Love My Wife.
Chris Rock's directed film, which is the remake of Eric Romer's Love in the Afternoon. Love Eric Romer. I'd never seen this Chris Rock film, and I have to say that I was highly entertained by this. Also co-written by Louis C.K. This is 2007, people. Kerry Washington is the femme fatale that is kind of luring Chris Rock away from his wife, played by Gina Torres.
Okay, Incredibly True Adventure of Two Girls in Love.
That was the Sundance. They were testing out their app, and that was the film they let everybody test out on. And I haven't watched that since a new queer cinema class I took in 2005. And I will say I felt much warmer about this now. And it is an odd, little entertaining film ahead of its time from 1995, which is where I was first introduced to Nicole Ari Parker, who's very young and pretty.
A Rage in Harlem.
So it's based on a Chester Himes novel. And the more famous film of a Chester Himes novel was Cotton Goes to Harlem, directed by Ossie Davis, starring Godfrey Cambridge. You know Godfrey Cambridge is the lead from Watermelon Man, by Melvin Van Peebles. But this is a 1991 film directed by the great Bill Duke, starring Forrest Whitaker and Gregory Hines, and a fucking fabulous looking Robin Givens as this femme fatale. It's like a black film noir. I was very impressed. I'm surprised this film is not more well known. In fact, I think I like this a little more than Deep Cover, even, which Criterion just put in their collection from Bill Duke. But yeah, it really well done. I have a couple Chester Himes books that I haven't read, but
Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
And right before Sundance started, I watched the sequel to The Poseidon Adventure, directed by Irwin Allen, which was a huge box office flop and a terrible movie, but a lot of fun because this was shot 8 or 9 years after The Poseidon Adventure, but is set on the next day.
Oh.
And Michael Caine plays this man who's part of the salvage crew, who they're like, if you can haul this belly up boat back to the mainland, you can
have what's in it.
You have what's in it. And him and his crew are like, oh, and there was all these rich Europeans on this boat, so there's going to be all kinds of stuff on there. Meanwhile, Telly Savalas plays this. He shows up as a doctor to save the rescued, and they're like, well, the rescued people have already been taken away, but he's there in case there's more people. And he is really there to embark on a robbery that had been planned 2 years before to be on this boat. Sally Field is also in it. In a really terrible performance, I thought. Michael Caine keeps calling her Monkey, which reminded me of Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine in Suspicion, where he keeps saying, hey there, monkey face. And very fantastic. Again, a ton of notable character actors. You got Shirley Knight and Jack Ward, and I'm blinking on so many. Peter Boyle, Veronica Cartwright's sister, I think, whose name is Angela Cartwright. This is her last theatrical release. Interesting, a young Mark Harmon. But you need to watch it with people because it is que terrible.
Lastly, I watched Back to the Future for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I really, really liked it.
Yeah, it's cute.
I really liked it. 1985, so I would have been, like 7. And then I think by the time... I remember seeing the VHS like in the video store, but I don't know what I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And then Back to the Future 2 was out, and
there's a third one too. Yeah.
I don't know, but...
You know the story that shot, and then with starring Eric Stoltz.
So I was going to say, I think this movie is almost perfect for me. Like, this is a movie I could watch multiple times. The thing that makes it not perfect is Michael J. Fox.
Really?
I liked him. I mean, I loved him in Family Ties and... The
Frighteners.
And I liked him in... what is it? Not Spin City. Is it Spin City?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like Michael J. Fox, but I don't think he's like perfect for the role, because his character's kind of supposed to be like... maybe it's also the writing of the character, because it's like he's supposed to be kind of cool, but then he gets picked on as well. And I just think that character's a little odd. So maybe it's not so much him. I think it's perfectly cast, maybe. I just don't like that character.
Okay.
I kind of wish he just would have been like a cool guy. Like maybe they picked someone who wasn't like borderline loser. It just feels weird. But I thought Christopher Lloyd was so cute.
Oh, he is cute. Yeah.
And Leah Thompson playing the mom who's in love with her son.
Yeah, and Crispin Glover.
And Crispin Glover's so good. I really enjoyed this movie so much.
You know, I haven't watched. I could rewatch it. It's been a very long time.
But we need to keep this train moving.
Okay.
So, projects of interest: Boon Joon-ho, Robert Pattinson.
It's Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho is the director.
Yes.
And he's doing a movie with Robert Pattinson.
Yes, this will be his first film since Parasite.
Okay.
You actually
the man who did Parasite. Okay.
Yeah, you've also seen his film The Host.
Sure.
And you saw Snowpiercer.
That's right, where they eat cockroach.
Where they eat the bugs.
Cockroach protein bars.
Which has that excellent Tilda Swinton performance.
And then something called Les Impires.
Yeah, I just learned about this. So Bruno Dumont, who was the director of my favorite film of 2021, France. He's busy at work shooting a new film called L'Empire, The Empire, starring Virginie Efira, Adele Haenel, Fabrice Lucchini, and Lily Rose Depp. And I read that it is about the arrival of knights from outer space.
Oh, interesting.
So that is. I'm excited about everybody in that except for Ms. Depp, who is neither here nor there for me.
I'm trying to rush because the obituary section is full.
Oh, yeah.
And this is wild. Okay, so first on the list is Gaspar Ulliel.
Who died skiing. He was 37 years old, same age as myself.
I don't know who this person is, but apparently he's in the house on a poster.
No, that's Louis Garrel.
Oh, then I really don't know who this is.
He's been in 2 Isabelle movies. He played her son in The Seawall, which I think is the first time I remember seeing him in 2008, a Rithy Pan film. And then he played her lover in Benoit Jacquot's Ava. He played Yves Saint Laurent. He was in that Xavier Dolan film I couldn't stand. It's Only the End of the World. You've seen his face on some kind of perfume ads. I'm forgetting. Cologne. Sorry.
Fragrance.
Can you tell I don't wear any?
No, you don't.
He's a very handsome, talented person, and I think it's just shocking. But skiing, my God. You
know what my black ass will never do is get my ass on some sticks and throw me down a snowy hill. Not even a hill, it's a damn mountain.
The last time I went skiing was in 1996 on a school trip. So I was in 6th grade. I can't believe. Does school still do this? They took us on a class trip, and then they just planted us all on the bunny hill. Like the more enterprising of us weren't ever gonna leave the bunny hill. So after I mastered that, I was like, let me try this blue black diamond shit, and I bit it so hard that I lost one of the skis, and felt like I hit the ground hard and rolled.
But I feel this way about water skiing.
But I felt that I knew as a child since then, I'm like, this is not the
snowboarding, people who ride those bikes on the mountains, to me, skiing is an extreme sport.
And we just watched that movie See For Me where that blind girl wants
and then the blind lady wants to go skiing?
No.
No.
Girl, you're gonna die. I don't know.
I barely want to drive in the snow.
But not to make light of, it's very tragic.
No.
That was, when I saw those nude, that was shocking to me. I'm very familiar with his work.
Okay, next, Andre Leon Talley passed.
Yes.
Who I'm quite familiar with. And recently there was a documentary about him.
Yeah, we watched that.
And I'm interested in reading his most recent memoirs.
I remember from the documentary, I think he was still kind of hopeful that he would find love.
I was going to say, I think the thing that's most sad to me, well, first of all, he has an extraordinary life.
Yeah.
Grew up in the South, raised by his grandmother. He earned his BA in French literature and a master's degree in French literature. Yeah. Did a lot of writing from many outlets. I think we all know him as being the editor at large for Vogue magazine.
Yes.
For many years. He broke from Vogue in 2013, I think, and then he talks about sort of his relationship with Anna Wintour declining at that point. But what a fabulous, fabulous man. And just like he, you know, in the documentary, that's why I want to read his memoirs, because he just has like so many cool stories and the people he got to be around. And, you know, but I think thinking about him, I feel sad knowing that he seemed like a very lonely man. And he talked about how he was on Wendy Williams once saying that he had never been in love. And I would imagine for someone like him, it probably is difficult, you know. A lot of people out here occupy a space where, like, how do I say this? A lot of people occupy a space that I think it's like, so using him is like, he's part of this very fabulous lifestyle, very beautiful people, right? But then he's not that. He's fabulous, but he's not, you know, I mean, anyone who wants to be with him romantically or sexually, I'm assuming thinks that they're going to benefit from it.
Sure. Yeah, like it's hard
In
to find
that
a
world.
genuine...
In that world. And I think a lot of gay men do that. A lot of homely gay men get really involved in like nightlife and all these go-go boys. And, you know, they do all the things that they can do to be around very attractive men. It's like, but they don't want you unless you're doing something for them. And then years pass and now the next thing you know, you're 60 years old and you've never had a real relationship because you occupy a space where these people, you know, you're going to be hard pressed to, you know, I don't know. I always think about him when he told Wendy Williams that he had never been in love. That it just makes me sad, but he seemed like a really sweet guy. Moving on to another fashion person, Terry Mugler passed.
Yeah, which we learned yesterday. Yeah.
Who we know from the fashion house Mugler, and he is a prolific fashion designer.
Very.
I became familiar with him because there is a George Michael video called Too Funky that came out in the 90s. And it's a really, really cool video. And the costuming is so amazing. In particular, one of the models, because it's all like 90s supermodels in the video, is wearing like a corset that has like handlebars like a motorcycle. And I remember reading about it in like probably like Billboard magazine or Rolling Stone and seeing that it was Terry Mugler. And then moving to Las Vegas, I remember being in an elevator with a man who I thought was, who smelled like, just the combination of how he looked and how he smelled prompted me to ask him, what is that smell? Which I don't think I had ever done before. And he said, it's Angel by Terry Mugler. And I went to the Nordstrom and bought a bottle.
Made a beeline for Nordstrom.
I sure in the hell did. But yeah, he has a remarkable career. And I know like he left his fashion house like I think in the early 2010s, but you know, we know his appearance changed drastically within the last like 15 years. And I was reading that it was due to an accident. Like he was in a car accident or something and broke his nose and then did all this other shit to his face. So he kind of looks very altered in the later part of his life. But he was known for like really championing diversity within fashion. So hiring models of color, hiring older models, drag queens, trans women. So yeah, I mean, what an amazing career. And I think Angel, the fragrance, is like one of the top selling fragrances of the 20th century.
Oh.
Like,
I had no idea.
Yeah. It's very recognizable. Next is Louis Anderson.
Yeah.
Aww. My only memory of Louis Anderson is he had a residency in Vegas.
That's right.
When I used to work in the casino. And I know that he had some troubles with a man trying to blackmail him, saying that he was trying to pay him for sex. And of course, Louis Anderson didn't want people to know he was gay. And then that man, like Louis Anderson, like sued him for extortion. And that man, like, took police on like a high-speed chase and all this crazy shit. But I remember that because I remember like living in Vegas and everyone knew like that, you know, he would have boys at his...
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, again, it's kind of sad to think like some people just can't live their truth.
I think towards the end, He was. able
Sure.
to.
Meatloaf died.
Yeah, Louis felt overshadowed by Meatloaf on the same day.
And the only thing I know about Meatloaf is I could do anything for love, but I won't do that. And isn't he in a movie?
He's in several movies.
Oh.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's right.
And also, I always think of him in Fight Club.
And then I was reading how he died, and then of course it's like he's an anti-vaxxer, and then he died from complications of COVID. So.
Yeah. I'm sorry, sir.
Sorry. And then lastly, Ian Alexander Jr., who is the sole child of
Regina
King. He was only 26. Man.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine being a parent and like your child, especially like your adult child, dies at such a young age, and that's your only child.
Well, and then it's suicide, and everybody's posting about it,
and then I went on his, because he was a DJ and music artist, and I went, and I believe his artist name is like Desdune or something, but I looked up his social media, and some of his posts are a little dark, like they fluctuate.
Sure.
So who knows? But
Yeah.
depression's real. I don't know if that's what he was suffering from, but suicidal thoughts are real, and if you're having them and you don't really want to die, then reach out for help, I guess.
Yeah.
If you do want to die, then it is what it is. God. But okay, the last thing, the topic for this episode is I was gone all of last week because I was on an Atlantis cruise, which is the gay cruise.
Yes.
And I was going to talk about it because, like, on the second day of the cruise, there was a New York Times article about it, saying, like, can a gay cruise be safe? The actual headline of the article is, can a gay cruise keep 4,700 people safe amid COVID? And then the article is pretty, it's garbage. It's really, this woman who wrote the article plucked, so there's like a group chat, and then like this person went into the Facebook group and then like sort of got people to give her quotes, and they're all very salacious quotes about how like, it's basically like they're going to go to have an orgy, and so then there was a lot of like fervor about that on the boat, and people trying to defend the cruise. Like it reminded me of that Maria Bamford joke where she's like, Seattle or Portland is like a bunch of people with the same
Arguing about screaming at each other about the same points.
Yeah, yeah, people arguing, but they have the same opinion. And I just think it's unfortunate because there are other cruises operating as we speak. Mm-hmm. Like, why choose a gay cruise when all cruise lines are operating right now? So, and this was a charter cruise, so they made additional rules, like everyone had to be vaccinated.
Because there will be close proximity happening on this boat.
Because so this was on Oasis of the Seas, which people were calling Omicron of the Seas and calling it a super spreader event, is operated by Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean does not require people to be vaccinated. So the charter cruise by Atlantis, this gay cruise, was more stringent. Like everyone had to be vaccinated. Everyone had to be tested within 48 hours of getting on the boat. And when the last night on the boat, the captain came on and like thanked everyone for keeping everyone safe, and that there were only 5 reported cases of COVID on the boat. Mm-hmm. So, all I have to say is I think like if people, at this point it's just like, if I could have canceled, I would have, but I couldn't. And the travel insurance was no longer valid because the date had changed. This cruise was supposed to happen a year ago.
That's right.
So because the date changed, the travel insurance was not valid, and then you couldn't get insurance. So I couldn't cancel unless I had a valid reason, like the country I'm coming from is restricting me or whatever. Or if I show up and I test positive for COVID, then I could not, and then they wouldn't let me enter the boat. But then the day before the cruise, they dropped that mandate. Because the October cruise I went on, you had to test before you entered the boat. And if I would have tested positive, they would give me a credit. But this cruise, they stopped doing that. So there was no chance I would get a credit or that I could cancel. So I made the decision to go. I am vaccinated. I have my booster. I tested negative. Also, all of the pictures that are on like Twitter and social media, other platforms showing like this like thousands of gay men all huddled up in like a space. I wasn't a part of that.
Sure.
Like, and this was my 6th cruise, right? And I've never been in
Well,
that.
you're not really a partier.
But I'm not a partier. So, you know, I wore my mask inside, as did most people during the day. So I felt comfortable. As far as I know, I don't have COVID. I feel fine. Some highlights from the cruise were, since we reviewed Queen of the Universe, Lavoie and Ada Vox performed on the boat.
Fighting fish.
Oh shit, we only have like a few minutes and there's a story I wanted to tell that I didn't tell you.
Well, you'll just have to pause it and restart it.
You know what? Let me stop and then I will restart. Hold on. Welcome back. Thank you. Okay. So one cute story. I was but this is not the main story. I was in one of the buffet. And no, I'm sorry. I was in the main dining room, and which is huge. It's like 3 stories. And there was a lady. Well, there was a person sitting there dressed up like Medea.
Like Tyler Perry's Medea.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, there are themed parties every night, and I don't attend the parties and I don't wear costumes, so I usually don't even know what the theme is until I see people, and then I get a general sense. But everyone dresses the same, which is like a jock strap with like a color.
Yeah.
So it's like the theme could be anything. But so I see this guy dressed up as Medea, like full on, like the wig, everything. So, and I just keep giggling because they're sitting there kind of being animated and talking to this person. So when I'm done with my meal, I get up and then they're also leaving. So we're by the elevator and I was like, oh, I really like your costume. That was a lady and that was not a costume. So I felt really stupid.
This lady that looks like Medea was on the gay cruise.
Oh, not only that, there was a lady on the boat who... And she wasn't an employee. She was like she paid to be on, I guess. She had the largest breast I have ever seen. And you know, I watched that shit on YouTube where people like, I don't even know, like Triple Z.
Like Christina Hendricks?
Who's that?
You don't know who Christina Hendricks is?
No, but you know, like I watch those Vice videos where it's like a woman made herself look black or the world's biggest breast. This lady had breasts that big.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
like back problems.
There was a lady on the boat who looked just like Medea, and I told her her costume was nice, and she was like, "This is not a costume," and it was clearly a lady. When I got up close, like, oh shit! But I didn't. I said it to her like kind of like walking up to her, but then when I saw her face when she turned around, I'm like, that is a lady. That is not.
But Medea wears like flowy. Like,
she had on a house dress. And she had a dusty wig on like Medea. And she had the glasses and everything. She even had the little flat shoe, like karate shoes. But that lady was not playing. Okay. Oh, also the last cruise, this exact cruise 2 years ago, a man died jumping off the boat.
That's right.
And then this year, another man died from a heart attack. And we were told that it was just like, he just had a heart attack. It wasn't drug related. But the story I was going to tell was, so Thursday, late Thursday night, like 3 a.m, something wakes me up and I hear tapping like at the door. But you know, on the boat, there are lots of sounds.
Quote the Raven, nevermore.
Like you can hear just like everything, water rushing, machines moving, just depending on where your room is. So I'm like, well, whatever. Just the noise woke me up. But now I'm awake, trying to fall back to sleep, and I hear tapping again. So I get up. But I'm not dressed, so I just get up and look out the peephole. And there is a man standing there. But, you know, the doors are so close together, and he wasn't, like, in front of my door. I could just see that there was a man there. So then I'm like, well, I don't know what he's tapping on, but I can hear it. And it wasn't loud, like a knock. It was just like a tap, like someone's taking their finger. So I'm like, okay, well, hopefully someone attends to him so he'll stop. And he was probably like, he was a white man in like his maybe like late 50s. But then I hear the tapping again. So I'm like, okay, let me get dressed so I can open this door and say like, the fuck are you doing? Because it's 3 a.m. So I do. And he says, I need a shoulder to talk to. Not a shoulder to cry on, but a shoulder to talk to. And I'm like,
Wait, what does this person look like?
who would play him in a movie? He was like an older white man, like in his 50s. He wasn't like a handsome white man. He looked kind of like dowdy.
Like a serial killer.
No, he just looked like, yeah, he just looked like, I don't know.
Anyway, okay, so this
Whatever.
man needs succor.
So I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, if I call the care team, which is like Atlantis, not Royal Caribbean, but Atlantis hires a team of like EMTs, paramedics to be on board because there's a lot of drug use on there and then just people, pass out and whatever. So they're there to help them. And it's supposed to be like there's no judging. They're not going to call the police. They just want to make sure you're fine. Mm-hmm. So he says, so they're called the care team. He goes, do you think the care... Do you think if I call the care team, will they tell me how to pass without jumping overboard? And I'm like...
Pass.
Like, die.
Oh.
And I'm like, I think we need to call the care team.
They're not the euthanasia team, sir.
So to give a little backstory, when I was 21, which was... 2001, I think. I was working at the casino and I was working in VIP services and one night there was an R. Kelly concert. It was R. Kelly featuring Cash Money Millionaires. So I was very excited because back then I really did like R. Kelly and I really did like the Cash Money Millionaires, like Manny Fresh, Lil Wayne, Juvenile, they were all going to be there. But I know how these things go, especially like urban shows. This shit does not start on time. And I had worked all day. So the show was supposed to start at something like 7 o'clock. So I was at home at 7. And the drive to work, because I worked at this casino that was having the concert, was only like a 10-minute drive. So I called the box office like at 7:30 asking, is the show starting? And they were like, not even close. So at like 8:15, I decided to leave my house. So it was a sold out show, 7,000 seat theater. We have like an 11-story parking garage, which is full. So I already know just to go right to the roof. And the roof is pretty empty. So I get up there, park my car, and I'm wearing my uniform, which is a black suit and tie. So that I don't have to have a ticket. I can just walk into the theater and just be there. And there's a lady there, this black lady, and she's like trying to get my attention. And it didn't seem weird to me because I was wearing like a suit. So I assumed she knew that I worked there. And she was saying something to me like, can you give this to my mom? Like my notebook. And I'm like, well, I don't see a notebook. And like, who's your mom? And I was young and I didn't understand what the fuck she was talking about. And I'm like, well, where's the notebook? Well, it's in my car. Well, who's your mom? Well, I'm going to jump. And I'm like, what? And like, so the reason I'm telling the story is because, so this lady's telling me she's going to jump off the 11th story of this parking garage in the casino I work in. I'm 21. I'm about to finish my degree in psychology, but didn't know anything about anything.
As no one does at that age.
So when she's telling me this, I'm not thinking like, stop. I'm not thinking grab her. I'm not thinking like, don't do this. I'm just like, okay, well, like if you're going to jump, then jump, I guess. So she does jump. So she jumps. I look over. I can't see that far down. Like I can't even see. Like I see that there's like blood and stuff. But she hit a rail, and it split her in half. So I immediately call security, and I know the head of security, and it's an older black man, and I call him, and I tell him what happened, and he's like, stay where you are. Security comes up and gets me, brings me down to the VIP lounge. the director of VIP, my like big boss, happened to be working. They put me in her office, and everyone's just like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And in my mind, I'm like, "I'm not the one who jumped. I'm fine."
That's still traumatic.
But I think what they were trying to explain, and what I understand now, is that like I just witnessed something
pretty traumatic.
very traumatic. But so I think for years it didn't bother me, and then one day it clicked that, and I think it clicked in Minnesota when I had that friend who called me one night saying that he was going to commit suicide. And then again, I really hadn't thought about like, well, what do I do if someone tells me that? And thank goodness he said, "Could you come over?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." So I go over there, and then I take his ass to the hospital, and we sit there I sit there all night while they talk to him, and then they kept him. And then, but like I sat there for hours until the nurse finally came out and told me like he's going to stay. But then it hit me like I could have done something for that lady.
Well, maybe not though.
So fast forwarding to this person, I felt like literally my heart started racing and I panicked. Like I didn't have a panic attack. I've never had a panic attack, but my version of that was like, my heart started racing and I just got confused. Like, I don't know what to do. So I said, okay, well, that's a problem. I can't even remember what I said. I do know that I did call on my phone, like in the room, because they keep telling you like call 911 if there's an emergency on the boat. So I called 911 and I said like, there's someone at my door saying that he wants to kill himself and he might jump off the boat. And then people came very quickly, but I talked to him for a little bit, and then he was like nearby in my room. And so for the rest of the cruise, like the remaining 2 nights, they had someone, because he had an interior room like I did, so there's no window, and they had someone sitting at his door like 24/7 for the entire time.
Well, yeah, that's a like.
But yeah, that was the story I didn't tell you when we talked yesterday. But so that put a damper on things because because it just made me think like I'm not prepared. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared 22 years ago when that lady jumped off the parking garage. I wasn't prepared 15 years ago when my friend said he was going to kill himself. And then I wasn't prepared last week when this man literally knocked on my door and said, "I'm going to kill myself."
No one's prepared for that unless you're trained to do it and you're working.
For sure. No, for sure. But I think like this has happened to me 3 times now. And it's like, it just feels like I don't know what to do. And maybe part of the reason in the back of my head is like, if you're going to do it, then do it. Like, if you've reached a point where it's like, I am really out here, but then I also understand like, this is also maybe a cry for help. And depending on how it's handled, a person could really be redirected.
Suicide.
And that's why I feel guilty.
Attempts are often a cry for help, but not always. Like the woman your first story, I think was more resolved than... You could, and in each of those situations you described, you did act accordingly. It's not like you did the next logical thing.
Maybe, and I can't be responsible for other people's emotions and whatever. And I think if someone asks for help, I feel like we are obligated to help each other. Like that's the human thing to do. I just think. It's almost like I feel like we need to be, like that should be like training in school or something. Like,
well, a lot of things should be training in school.
Of course, yes. Like how, yeah.
But
like,
yes, like how to deal...
The importance of good credit, but...
the importance of noticing...
warning signs.
Warning signs, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, and even with all of my schooling and my work, like, I mean, I've worked in psychiatric wards and like, with all of my experience, I still felt like I don't know... I just felt at a loss on what to do. And then I felt guilty like the following days because every time I'd walk to my room, I would see this person, like this security guard sitting in front of this room. And then I thought like, was I not kind enough because I had an attitude? Like it was 3 a.m. and there's this man tapping on my door and I don't know if it's because he was trying to get my attention or, I approached him with an attitude. And then to find out that he was just, maybe I was just random. Like he was just tapping on any door hoping someone would come out. So yeah, that's my downer story. But
it's interesting more than it's in the downer. But also, you could have, by answering the door, prevented him from jumping off, and then you get stranded for a week somewhere or something. Because the last time that happened, they have to stop operations.
we couldn't leave the port. But, that's not my, I wouldn't have, someone losing their life wouldn't have upset me that like now my vacation's ruined.
That's not what I mean.
No, I don't think you do, or I don't think that's what you meant. But, no, yeah, you're right. Maybe me opening the door helped him in a way, but
because I think we downplay how the ripple effect and how connected we really are with those in the same space as us. It really behooves us to care for one another rather than be ambivalent and ignore. I just don't think people realize that. And I'm not talking about like to avoid inconvenience yourself, stop those around you from killing themselves. It's just, I think ultimately it feels better to have done something helpful.
Well, and I certainly appreciate being alone, but I think my solitude is like self-inflicted. Like I've always been a loner.
Like a monk.
Yeah, like I didn't have friends in high school, and then in college I didn't have friends, and then as an adult working, it's like, I was friendly with coworkers, but really that was the extent of it. I was always alone. I've always done things by myself. If I wasn't, I was very social in the sense like I was always out with men, like going on dates but other than that, I didn't have a lot of friends. And then the last 14 years being in a relationship is like, well, all my energy has gone to that, which is, it is what it is. But I think, yeah, like to feel alone and also to be alone or feel alone, because I think I am alone, but I don't feel alone necessarily, because it's just a state that I'm used to and I don't, whatever. But then there are people who are like lonely. So to feel alone and then need comfort or need a shoulder to cry on, as it were, I can only imagine, because I've never actually felt like I need someone to talk to. But I think it's not because I'm like a rock. It's because I'm just so accustomed to not having anyone to talk to that, but I don't think that's normal. I think many people fail to thrive in those conditions.
In solitude.
And I think I have thrived somehow. I'm like a little dry cactus in the middle. I'm like that one little dry piece of shrubbery in the desert somewhere that just got used to it, I guess. And that doesn't make me better. I just think that, kind of piggybacking off what you said about maybe, we would all do better to try to make genuine connections with people and really care about people. Because I feel like a lot of the people I meet,
it's easier said
people's
than done,
intention. It is much easier said than done, but I think oftentimes it's like, oh, well, people want your attention because, they either think you're attractive or, their intention is not to like get to know you as a person.
Sure.
It's because they want something from you. And, but that's not very useful when you need...
It's not useful, but it can be a starting point.
It can be.
Because it can... That kind of... I think as gay men, I think we all have experienced that. It's hard to make friends that aren't people that were first attracted to you. So I think that sometimes you have to trust that it might evolve into something that's more beneficial. But we can't negate the need for a starting point either.
No. And that's a separate conversation.
That is.
I'm just saying, that could go on for hours too, but I'm just thinking like really trying to connect with people. And I'm not saying we need to connect with everyone around us, but I think it's important to be available to people. And, I know I live in a bubble.
Well, part of being in a bubble, I think we think of that so negatively now, but you also have to live, that's survival too. Like I can't be permeable to everything that comes in my path. Like there has to be something for me.
Well, I agree. I think that's why I'm that way. It's like,
it's just that,
because, I often think if I were to have been that guy in my, in college in my early 20s, like being a social butterfly and investing in all these people, like I wouldn't be where I am today.
right.
Because in my mind, I think I would have wasted so much time just trying to like go out drinking. And then as I got older, going partying turns into like happy hour and brunch. And like, that's all I do. And then, I think I learned around like the time when I met you that, and then this happened to us maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, where especially as gay men, like you can make friends, like quote unquote friends, who you spend quite a bit of time with, who you interact with on a very regular basis. And the reality is like that relationship is based on very little. Like, the fact that we see each other every weekend or we go out twice a week together or whatever doesn't necessarily add up to anything, right? Mm-hmm. We had friends who we would hang out with almost every weekend for years, like several years. And ultimately we stopped because we realized like these people don't know us.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem interested at all.
Like some basic facets of our lives.
Basic things like what we do for work or how we feel about things. And it was just more like they just want like witnesses to their experiences, I guess. And then also it's like you can be sexual with someone a number of times, like for a long period of time. And then it's like, and many people do that. And it's like, you don't know this person. So you let this person have sex with you, once a week for 5 years. And then it's like, you don't even know them. And I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that many of us engage in these sorts of friendships that don't have a lot of substance. And I think that could be really alarming if you reach a critical point where you feel like if you're in crisis and then you start doing inventory and it's like, well, all of these people who I thought were my friends, they really have no value to me beyond like, that's who I go out drinking with because I'm afraid to go anywhere alone. Or that's the person who, I find inside of me once a week.
I find inside of me.
And, for pleasure. But
there you are.
Oh, hey. And then it's over. And so I think that's what I'm thinking. It's just like we need to maybe think about how we spend our time and who we spend our time with and what we're doing. And if we were to reach a critical point, like who would we feel could get us through that? Like people don't really know you. Mm-hmm. People don't really know me. And I know they don't know me because the way people react to me is more like, my personality is very different from how, I'm not fake. Like the way I act is how I am. But I think the way people read me is very different from my actual like mindset and demeanor. Because I'm actually quite morbid and sad. Like that's my real self. Uh-huh. But I think people think that I'm probably like funny or witty.
Well, you're that too, though.
I am, but I think, I don't know that anyone who knows who I am would think that I'm like a fragile person or a sad person. They probably think I'm like grumpy or sassy. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, I am those things too, but I'm not fragile. Like I'm going to jump off a cliff, at a drop of a dime. But you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's just hard because very few people know me. So then it's like I present myself in an authentic way, but it's like because my connections with people are so superficial.
You're not ever really vulnerable to.
I don't get a chance to be vulnerable. Yeah. No one talks to me. Like no one talks to me. And if they do, it's very fleeting or it's for like a specific thing. And that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, so then, yeah, I can't be vulnerable with anyone because there's no opportunity. But, that's my doing too, right?
Well, luckily you're married then.
Yeah, I'm not wholly alone, but I'm just saying I'm lucky because I'm not wholly alone and I'm very comfortable being, comfortable in my solitude.
Right. Which I
think... But
for
people who aren't...
but it's important to be able to be alone with yourself.
Well, yeah, if you ask me, I would say 100%.
Yeah. But yes.
But it's easy to say.
But we also are social creatures, et cetera, et cetera. And
but it's easy to say when you're okay with being alone, you know. But there are people who there are things that you and I do that people think like, how could you do that?
Oh my God! Every time I go out, I go out alone. 99% of the time I go out, I'm alone, and every time, I'm grilled by several people about who I'm there with, and when I say I'm alone, it's always like, oh my God.
Well, every cruise, every time I do something like, I mean, especially the cruise, like people are so like, like they can't believe that I would go on this thing alone with no friends on the boat, and it's like, well, wouldn't that be an opportunity to make friends? But see, it's that attitude that makes me think people aren't willing to. And so getting back to the original thing is like, I think people aren't willing to try to make connections. It's just like they see you and they like what they see, so they start up a conversation. And then they realize that you're really not the format that they...
But as gay men, we also use friendships as a qualifier of our worth.
Right.
Like it means something that, look at all these people that love and adore me.
And if I'm being a little more egotistical, I think maybe sometimes when people do get to know me slightly, maybe they're just like put off because I'm not like everyone else. Like I'm not gonna, you giving me sort of like a passive invitation to do something is not gonna, I'm a very busy person. I have a lot to do and I'm very comfortable doing the things I want to do on my own. So you telling me, oh, we should hang out. Well, girl, unless you take action, it's not going to happen. Because if you think I'm going to reach out, and again, that's my problem. But it's also like, I don't like that. I don't want a secondhand invitation to do something.
Same, yeah.
Right?
Same, yeah.
If you want me to go to your house, you need to ask me directly.
Yeah. You need to...
Because I'm kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? A bitch like me is not just like sitting around hoping someone calls me. Like, you need to give me a proper invitation. And it needs to be enticing.
And it needs to be in advance because... I'm busy.
Well, I'm not saying that I won't do something spontaneous, but I'm just saying, I'm not a regular, I shouldn't say that. I just think some people seem like they're just waiting around hoping because they're so afraid to not have a social calendar. And someone like me is like, there are very few moments when I can be alone and feel like it's okay to do nothing. I'm never bored. So I'm not just sitting around thinking like, oh, well, anyone just sort of casually invite me to do anything and then I'll do the heavy lifting. You will be sorely disappointed approaching me that way. Like, ask me directly and come with something interesting. Because I can have fun on my own. Like, I don't need...
I can do bad all by myself.
I can do bad all by myself. I don't need to go sit at some sad bar and stare at you and experience your poor conversation skills, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
I have a personality. I can have a conversation. So
especially because at any random time at that bar, there will be other people that would gladly talk to me as well.
Yeah,
usually.
I'm an interesting person.
You are very interesting, yes.
As are you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're not just gonna get us to. You got to do a little bit more than just say we should do something together.
That's like, what's that Patrice O'Neill bit about white women?
You can catch them with nuts and berries.
Nuts and berries. We are not nuts and berries people.
I'm not a nuts and berries kind of gal. Like, yeah, I need a little bit more. But okay, somehow we got cut off, but that's fine because I was talking crazy anyway.
There was something about the flip side.
The flip side is I'm also not out here finding people who I think are interesting and saying like, hey, let's do this thing on this day. I would love to like talk about whatever. But, again, I'm used to being alone. I'm very busy. I enjoy my alone time because I have so little of it. So, it's a conundrum.
Yes.
But all to say that...
It's a very Sisyphean conundrum, isn't it?
It was... Just getting back to the boat, like it put a damper on it because I just felt bad. And then I kept thinking like, what must this man be going through that he spent, his little whatever, $2,000-$3,000 to get on this boat to just be so sad that he would knock on a random door to say, that made me sad.
Yeah, of course.
Because if I were ever in that spot, I think it would just be a really dark, dark, dark place.
Yeah, it's a bad place to be.
So I hope that man who I don't, obviously...
Sorry to this man.
Well, I just hope he feels better about things and, But again, ironically, for someone who's been approached by this 3 times, I'm probably not the best person. Because as you know, like I'm not against suicide. I feel like, because I think like
you're like, what's that man on the boat in Hades? Chiron.
Oh,
let me guide you.
well, because you know how I feel. It's like I think death is just like before we were born. It's nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's like you won't know if you're dead or alive. Like to me, it doesn't matter when you die because you won't know the difference. And ultimately, as time passes, no one will know we existed anyway. I mean, unless you're a historical figure or a celebrity, and even those people's like memory of these people fade away as well. But for those of us who are just regular.
So the topic of this podcast was suicidal escorts.
I think
you've been groomed.
I'm not saying that, if you have the thought to kill yourself, you should do it. But I think like some people get to a place where they feel like I'm not going to say it gets better. I'm not going to say if you have this awful life where you're being abused or you're experiencing this pain or whatever, that, somehow you like things are going to turn around for you.
No, and context is different for everybody and what kind of privilege you have. But, I'd also, I'd also urge, do not go gently into this dark night either. Don't just make an effort.
Right. Yes, of course. But I just want to send out an open letter. Like, don't, I'm not the best person to talk to about suicide. Because if you have a conversation with me about it and it's something that you feel strong about, I'm going to say, you do what you need to do. Like, so if it's a cry for help, you're probably not gonna get a lot of help from me.
No, I can second that.
Yeah, you're like, unless you tell me call 911, I'm just gonna be like, well, because I'm not gonna hand you the knife, but I'm also not gonna put a bloody body in my car. So I don't.
Like people who knew me before I knew you, I was kind of more on the morbid, depressive side, and right away I think I learned like, we're just going to sink to the bottom unless I kind of make an effort to be more positive.
Yes, I am not a positive person.
So anyway,
this podcast is really long.
Yep, sure is.
Do you have a quote to close us out with?
I don't. I was just trying to give you the floor.
Oh, look at that. And then for the rest of the week, you just are doing Sundance stuff.
Sundance bleeds directly into Rotterdam, which almost more or less bleeds directly into Berlin. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm very busy as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's all I have.
For now.
Toodaloo.